Okay, thanks so much, Jude, for agreeing to jump on this.
Sure. Thank you so much, Nato, for putting this together.
Not at all, you're welcome. So I know we've been speaking over the last few years about our love for Nigeria and how politics is really important in the way our country unfolds. And I'm really excited to hear that you're actually running in this cycle for office. So tell me, how did you get interested in politics?
I mean, it was actually a story. My dad ran a pharmaceutical factory in my constituency that we did together, and the factory shut down after like 5 years. He wanted to get a loan from Bank of Industry. He had to pay a bribe. He had to pay different bribes at different points. The whole matter became a political issue. Does he know somebody there? And when the company shut down, about 130 people lost their jobs. I was in pharmacy school then. So I was like, you know what? This country is so messed up that even hardworking people can't do, what they love doing. And if I'm going to go into pharmacy, I'll probably meet the same obstacles that my father met in trying to build a pharmaceutical factory and create jobs and, do something that I can be proud of as a country. For me, I was like, if I wanted to solve something, it had to be solving that thing that stopped my dad from building a factory. And that was how I got interested in the politics of our society, because it was clear to me that without a society where, policies are sound, institutions are strong, it's very, very difficult for private sector and the people at large to thrive to their fullest capacity. They will thrive to an extent because, so some other factories are still running. Even though during that period, a number of other pharmaceutical factories also shut down. Some of his friends that were running pharmaceutical factories as well were also shutting down. But there's still some pharmaceutical factories, that are out there. So, but the society will not thrive to its fullest capacity unless we have strong institutions, sound policies, and it's people that will drive this thing. So I committed myself to driving that change. At the time, I think I was 18 or 19. I left pharmacy school, went to do political philosophy, and I've been on that path since.
That's right. Because when our paths crossed, I know, you've always been working in kind of public policy and even in technology as well, and also healthcare. So that's a very, good trifecta that aligns even with my own personal interest. Tell me a bit more about your own background. So how your own career path has evolved over the last few years that has brought you to this place now where you feel you're fit to run for office.
Okay, so when I left pharmacy and got into, when I came from political philosophy, I also did a startup in school for e-commerce for students. So I already got into tech.
That's another.
Yeah, with a few of my friends, I got a scholarship, then put all the money in setting up e-commerce for students. So I already got into tech very early. So then Konga was still Sabunta. I think Jumia was still Kasuwa.com. So when I left school, I got into health tech because I had that health care background. All my experience was running pharmacies, doing R&D even in my dad's laboratories then. So got into health tech. I think I was chief operations officer for MedRep at the time. That was funded through CDMAC Technologies. But the whole political thing was still very strong. So at some point in 2016, I resigned and then fully joined politics, became national youth leader of COA party, but was still doing a number of tech ecosystem hangouts and a couple of all these other things on the side. So in 2018, I went for my master's in public policy. And my specialization was on the governance of innovation, and began, apart from the fact that I had been engaging through advocacy on technology policy, there's this bill in National Assembly that's been there since 2014, National Research and Innovation Bill. When it first got into the National Assembly, I was one of the advocates for that bill. It's still not passed now, funny enough.
Well, you make sure it's passed if you get elected, have you?
Exactly. So when I came back from my master's, started consulting on public policy on innovation. So there's this policy, for example, the Nigerian Digital Innovation and Entrepreneurship Startup Policy, is a recent policy that was published by the current Federal Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy. So
is this
the lead
startup bill? That's the one that's colloquially known as startup bill, is it?
That was the one that led into the startup bill. So one of the recommendations for that policy when we did it with the ministry was that the policy was not just enough, that there was a need for a legislation to back it up. And that's what now gave birth to the Nigerian startup bill.
I see.
So, I mean, my professional career path has been around public policy and also research for organizations, governments around policy issues. And then, of course, a lot of engagement with the National Assembly. So the Nigerian Startup Bill, for example, is something that we're pushing. I'm leading the engagement on that with the National Assembly in partnership with the NSB Secretariat and the Office of the Chief of Staff to the President.
Thanks.
So yeah, I mean, that's what's been, and I'm sure anybody that, I mean, listens to this already knows I have a lot of background and experience talking to National Assembly members, advocating for different policies, technology and innovation as well, which is one of my core legislative agendas.
Yeah. And so speaking to that point, your goal is to go into the Federal House of Representatives, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, and you've already highlighted, one of your priorities. Can you just summarize what the priorities will be for you if you do get elected into the office?
So, I mean, one of them would definitely be focusing on patents and intellectual property legislation, because I know that if we're really going to do innovation in Nigeria, we have to solve that problem. The current Patents and Designs Act it was enacted in 1976. It has not been amended. It has not been repealed. It's what governs the very, very haphazard patents or intellectual property regime in the country right now. I mean, I'm sure you know about this as an health tech entrepreneur. Majority of people who want to get patents on their innovation have to go outside the country if they're serious. So that's a priority for me. But and it's just an example of the kind of deals I'll be pursuing that impact on the tech ecosystem in the country. But much more importantly is also oversight. You hear a number of all these agencies just announcing one policy or the other that affects technology companies. And there's nobody who is, the Committee on ICT has the power to call them to order, reverse the policy, summon them, but nobody really knows what is really happening themselves. So, they're not paying attention to it. So that oversight is also something important that I'll be focusing on. And much more importantly, educating other members of the House of Representatives on why those issues matter, because I assume that I'm hoping that more young people like myself who are, well-oriented would get into National Assembly. But in the case that that's not what happens, there's a lot of education that needs to happen to say this issue matters because of this, and this, and that's why we have to take it up. And then, of course, at the local level, there's basic issues of water, electricity in the villages that, tech and innovation does not really, the technology that they need there is tap water, right? And that's one of the things I'll be focusing on as well.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much, Jude. I followed your progress over the years, and I'm really excited that you're running for office. I'm totally aligned. So I will be, contributing to your success and donating to your campaign. If others are interested in supporting you, what's the best way to do that?
So, there's a campaign account at Zenith Bank. I'll share that with you. There's also like a PayPal account, campaigns@judeferanmi.org. Majority of what I shared here, and even much more than that, is on the campaign website as well, judeferanmi.org. Anybody can go there, read our manifesto, and be able to see what exactly we're up to.
Excellent. So I'll share all of those links, and I wish you all the best, and excited to see you win and actually improve the policy environment for those of us in health, technology, and entrepreneurship. Thank you so much, Jude.
Thank you so much, Dr. Neto. Really appreciate it.
All right, awesome.